Hey there, everybody. This is a fan with too much time, and today I thought we'd just talk a bit, masticate the recent events, and exchange some ideas, perhaps. Maybe just air some thoughts of my own. It hasn't been looking very good in the direction of Games Workshop, and I'll explain why. Before I do, let me just go ahead and preface this. So obviously there are other Warhammer 40k creators. I don't even really consider myself a Warhammer 40k creator, though I do put out the Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k story. Among the Warhammer 40k creators, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with Warhammer 40k creators. I watch the vast majority of them and enjoy them distinctly. But among them, there is Arch, formerly known as Arch Warhammer. He had to remove the Warhammer half when GW got on him about that. I don't really like Arch Warhammer. I don't like him because, while I do definitely believe in a man's right to kneel before his game, I definitely believe in a man's right to include his politics on his platform to some degree, in respect to the moral imperative. Arch definitely seems to be the kind of person who's just kind of thrown any and all lines to the wind and will freely include his politics into any of his standard videos on the drop of a hat. And I'm not necessarily certain what leftist means or when the term got coined. You see what I'm saying? But he likes to blame everything on leftists, and what leftist implies is just anyone who's left of his side of politics, which I suppose I fall under. So, of course, it's hard not to take the shit that he says literally, and therefore personally, when he blames the destruction of what is one of my favorite franchises on leftist policies. And honestly, unless you're going to now associate leftists with mindless, brainless capitalism, I don't think that's a fair conflation to make. And it sucks because, Arch in a recent video makes a lot of cogent and agreeable points, but he immediately tries to ruin them by conflating them with things that don't necessarily have anything to do with what he's saying. I think that a day or two ago from the recording of this video, he made a video called GW's target audience is not Warhammer 40k fans anymore, or something to that effect. And I watched it because even though I don't really like Arch Warhammer, I once watched him go on for upwards of like 40 minutes speculating as to whether or not Black Space Marines are like canonical or were intended to be in the setting, and I just can't describe how unhelpful that ridiculous conversation is. If back when I was enjoying Warhammer, someone had sat me down and been like, "Oh, by the way, there are no black people in this universe." What? No, not no black people. There are no Black Space Marines. What? I mean, no Black Space Marines outside of the Salamanders. Like no other Legion has them. Any time that a Legion makes a Space Marine, that guy's skin color changes to be like more or less exactly like his Primarch, and that's the case with all of them. And that's like, okay, we know that Unstable Gene Seed can do that, but we also know that by definition Stable Gene Seed does not. I'm not going to go into this again. The point is that it made me really uncomfortable to watch this motherfucker sit here and speculate on whether or not black people can join the Space Marines as Ultramarines for like 40 minutes, and that was the topic of his whole fucking video. I don't like that shit. He's free to say it. I am not in any way saying that he should be deplatformed or be unable to have and make whatever content or opinion it is that he is making or wanting. It's just showing you why I don't really like Arch Warhammer. His content is really, it doesn't respect any lines that I draw, and additionally, it's really insulting and like borderline a lot of shit that I don't like. Really likes to dance on that line, and I don't like to watch that dance. Please just make the hobby fun for everybody if it's possible. Yeah, all right. So I have to preface all of that because you have to understand that with all of these misgivings that I have towards Arch Warhammer and his way of doing things, and the fact that he's always trying to play politics with crap like this and inserting it into his language everywhere he gets the fucking impulse to. I still agree in large part with this sentiment he released in the video I mentioned. Not the one about Black Space Marines, but the one about GW's target audience changing. Because in that video, he lays out, at least in brief, before he begins to make these other conflations, he lays out several things that I do as a person who's trained in marketing see as, okay, yes, if a company was trying to gear itself up to sell itself to a larger entity like Disney, they would definitely pursue certain tactics that we have been seeing Warhammer take. Now, I think that they're doing this in a really dumb way, again, but it does make a lot of sense why they can ignore us and why they don't care about us and why nothing we do can really alter, shift, change, or sway this corporation, because this corporation isn't really looking at us. It's just trying to make itself look nice and big and pretty, creating a subscription service called Warhammer Plus and making the setting more friendly and more colorful. I mean, not necessarily that Warhammer 40k even now is a friendly or colorful setting, but, the Primarch is back. We finally got some forward swing progress in the story. It's not nearly as grim dark as it used to be, because it used to be so grim dark that you were like, yeah, next month the Imperium won't be here. We're sort of sitting on terminal, and now it's just a timed game until something breaks the net because of how ineffective we are. And now we've moved up from that, which I'm not necessarily against most of that stuff. It's just that that when it's done with the intention of just prettying up the turkey so you can sell it for Thanksgiving, it definitely removes the turkey's opinion on what should be happening. And it's kind of like we're the turkey in this case. They're trying to pretty themselves up so that they can sell themselves to a large corporate entity like Disney. And I'm conflicted on how to feel about that, because obviously people have strong feelings about Disney owning or controlling any more fucking independent properties than they already control. Disney owns Star Wars, Disney owns Marvel, and of course it owns itself and all the things that it has independently produced. These things are kind of freaky because this one mega corporation is effectively coming into control of so many independent properties, and we like to shit on Disney a lot. That being said, as a guy who tries to be even-handed, what Disney has done to Star Wars hasn't really been as much Disney's fault as I want it to be. Kathleen Kennedy is still there. She's still gonna be there for a good long time. Even though she has to run everything by Bob Iger, at least from what I understand. Bob Iger can't literally baby Kathleen Kennedy the entire time that she is running as CEO, even after all the dumb shit that she's done. He would try to find some resolution by which this autonomous portion of the company can do its fucking job and be trusted. That is what Bob Iger would do, because even though Kathleen Kennedy has done a bunch of dirty, scummy things to try to get one over on him to get her, Headland show aired, even though she's done those things, Bob Iger is, at least from what I've seen, more than anything else, more than even a person who takes things personally, Bob Iger is a businessman who likes to make his business successful and, make money. So that's why he kind of squeezed Kathleen Kennedy after she fucked up Star Wars so badly and forced things to change around. But I say that because the whole idea is that Disney would have adjusted course, or not even taken the course that we see it having taken before, were it not for Kathleen Kennedy's iron contractual grip on the Star Wars franchise due to, I suppose, her deceit of George Lucas, where she convinced him that she had it all really well planned out and that she would be a good guardian of his franchise, and turned out to be the opposite. Disney has done very well for the most part. Yes, they do tend to play it a bit more safe than I would traditionally like, but on the whole, Disney increases the quality of most franchises it comes into possession of. It doesn't decrease their value. Star Wars is the one example where that has been happening, and again, it comes with these enormous caveats of, Disney can't touch it directly. They have to work through Lucas's person, who is effectively Kathleen Kennedy. Who, we don't need to rehash that. I just hashed it. And if you were to ask me, fan, what do you think of Disney owning Warhammer 40K instead of Games Workshop? My knee-jerk reaction is, hell no, Disney shouldn't own something like that. Disney will make it too family-friendly. Disney may take the stability route with it and fuck it all up. But at the same time, there are certain things that Disney will do that I know Games Workshop doesn't do that I can't help but think will take it in a better direction. I mean, for example, if Warhammer sales falter because people don't like the direction it's being taken in, Disney will course correct. Disney will slam its foot down and defend things that it's already produced and that it's already put out, because that's what any large corporation does. That's just textbook. You'll never find an example of them doing otherwise unless they're hammered hard enough to break out of that. And that's pretty rare. So, they'll do that. Every major company will do that. That's just how they work. That's how they operate. But they will, behind the scenes, be like, oh shit, man, we gotta make our money, man. We gotta be smart about this, man. We're Disney. We're Three Circles. We got this, big brains on here. And they would figure out how to sell this. They wouldn't just try to sell it to a whole new audience and try to pitch it as a Star Wars version 2. They would recognize, if they did purchase this, that the value behind it comes from its history and from the existing fans, and they would appeal to those fans. I do believe that Disney would do that, because Disney likes to make fucking money. And Disney is a pretty effective money-making corporation when his hands aren't tied. And it's sad that I am sitting here conjecturing how much better a job Disney could do than Games Workshop, the current IP holder. But honestly, it feels like Games Workshop is also making those same projections, because that is what it looks like. Again, I don't like to agree with Arch Warhammer on almost anything, because the guy kind of ticks me off in the way that he presents his content and the things that he blames all the faults of everything around on. That being said, yeah, Arch looks pretty right on this count. I mean, I wish we had a fucking community head for Warhammer 40k, or a person we could talk to and get a personal contact with, as opposed to just corporate speak. If we even get that much. But Warhammer 40k, the Games Workshop company is a really opaque company. I don't know. Maybe it comes from them being a British company. I have no idea why they feel the need to behave the way they do and to conduct themselves the way they do and to be so hostile and possessive. They're definitely an old world company, because they don't get on with the times. They don't realize that cooperation and conjunction with your audience is what produces the most amount of fan engagement and thereby produces the most amount of money. They've just been making buku bucks off of selling plastic figurines for way more than they're worth. Way more than they're worth. If it costs 1 cent to make a nail and you sell each individual nail for $1, you're making insane amounts of money, and people don't necessarily think that's expensive. And that's what they've been doing. They've been selling nails for fucking $5 for a very long time, and they're used to making that insane overhead. They're used to just spending so little to produce the product and getting so much in return for it. And it's a weird place it puts me in as a Warhammer fan. With Disney, I have options. With Disney, I can just support the content they put out that is made by the people who I like, and I know that they'll see that and pay attention to it, and that their priorities are oriented towards the general public and towards me, or rather their general audience for whatever IP they're releasing. With Games Workshop, I just don't know what the hell's ever going on. I don't know where their heads are at. I don't know what they want from us. I don't know how greedy or not greedy they are. I don't know what. I don't know anything. I just have to sit out here and speculate. And they really are just so unfriendly, and they're so fucking nasty to their own fan base. Just so unreasonably possessive all the time that I don't really... that it really does make me feel like they're just gearing up to try to cash out before 3D printers become a huge thing and ruin their ridiculously, like, greedy business model. And that they then want to sell it. You know, they want to go, hey, Disney, look, we have Warhammer Plus. It's doing pretty good. We have these things. They're doing pretty good. A media company like you could do a lot with this. And then, like, cash out that way. And it's like, okay. And there are a few problems with that. I mean, first of all, you need to maintain your fan base, you'd think, if you want to do that. But the other thing is just that I don't... If they're so ham-fisted about it and they're so blatant and greedy about it that you can tell that this is what they're trying to do, they're doing it the wrong way. And I just don't know how on earth we can ever tell them that. I mean, I'll tell you what would really get their attention. If model sales got boycotted. But I don't have any power there. I don't buy or collect the models, in large part because getting into the hobby seems extremely expensive and time intensive. And for me, the stories of Warhammer 40k have always been what sells the setting to me, not the game itself, rather the tabletop game itself. You know, so I can't boycott that. And I see people on the Warhammer, you know, subreddit, and I see how much joy they get from painting their figurines and showing it to each other, and how that's a totally different part of the hobby that I should definitely respect, even if I don't take part in it. But these fans will preserve Games Workshop. They make most of Games Workshop money. They're the ones with the power, and they're the hobbyists who just care about the figurines and the painting of the figurines. I don't know how lore intensive or lore involved these fans are, but I don't expect that they're as lore involved or as lore intensive as the fans who are only here for those purposes. I just don't see that side of the Warhammer 40k fan base boycotting Games Workshop, you know. And if they don't boycott Games Workshop and starve the beast a bit, then we have no power. You know, it's like, I don't know what they'll do with low numbers on Warhammer Plus. You know, they're not obligated to release those numbers at any point, so they could just hide them and pretend they're very good. They could do some other shenanigans. I'm still gonna boycott. I'm still gonna be really, you know, I'll tell you what my plan is. I hope near the end of this video. It's just, it leaves me feeling really despondent. It leaves me feeling really uninspired. It leaves me feeling really bad, feeling a lot of bad emotions, like I'm a vestigial limb on a fan base that doesn't want me. And I don't even mean that as, oh, I'm the Star Wars versus Warhammer guy. Yeah, I'm the fan fiction guy, so obviously I'm to the left. I was always willing to accept that kind of thing. I mean, like, as a lore Warhammer fan, and a fan who only uses the video games as opposed to the tabletop, I feel like I'm this vestigial limb onto a beast that doesn't really want or need me, at least not yet. And because of that, I'm not addressed. I'm not really taken care of. I'm kind of laughed at. I'm kind of, you know, addressed only in mockery or jest, and occasionally in like a casual way out of like, oh, and thanks for the consistent book sales and all the video game sales, here's something maybe. And I don't know, man, it just feels like I'm unwanted, you know, not among the Warhammer 40k community who actually cares about the stories and about the universe's lore, but insofar as the primary staple of GW's money-making fan base, and therefore the ones that have the most control over this independent property, and by that I mean the lore that I'm here for and they aren't here for, those people, I don't feel like I'm even a blip on their radar, and that if I had anything to say, they would pay any fucking attention to me. I don't think I can convince even one of those people to stop buying their miniatures for even a month to send a shock through GW. You know, I just don't know how realistic that is. I don't know whether or not I can rely on that half of the Warhammer community to have my back on this. because I don't know if they have any skin in that game. I don't know if they care at all. I would hope that they do. I can name many logical reasons why they should care, but I can't impose caring onto people. You have your reasons for giving a fuck, and you have your reasons for not giving a fuck. And for what it's worth, I typically respect those things. It just leaves me in a fucking bad situation, because now I have to think about continuing to slog it through this, continuing to be an active fan in a community that may not care or even want me to be. And not just in a community like a half a community, because it's not like the whole fan community by any means, but like half a community that doesn't give a fuck about my existence whatsoever. Not even the existence of the things that I'm interested in that, the lore. And a company which clearly does not. Like, clearly does not. I don't, and the sad part is that I don't mind at all Warhammer 40k getting less grimdark. People, well, it's not getting less grim. Yeah, it has gotten less grimdark. Where the Imperium is making progress again. And I like that. I really do like that. For me, a stagnant setting is one of the biggest killers of things like Star Wars. Star Wars. You'll notice that Star Wars YouTubers are constantly scrounging for content because they've been on there for so long, talking about content for Star Wars for so long, and Star Wars has been so stagnant for so long that it's hard to squeeze fucking juice out of this universe. Recently, the Disney stuff has been really giving life to a lot of Star Wars. People don't want to hear that, but that is what has been happening. And not just that, but the same thing has been happening with Warhammer 40k. You may think, oh, how is the Imperium at its lowest point, but also stronger than ever? I think that actually it's Arch Warhammer who says something like that. I don't care about dumb shit like that. Like what you just said, that sentence you just said, I don't care about that, man. I don't care about that. Anti-gravity tanks that actually crush you instead of float over you are badass, and the setting should have them. I think that even the Imperium should have them. I like the idea that there was this intense Imperial Dark Age where everything was so fucked that you had, like, literally this tomorrow could be doomsday whole like setting, in the super literal sense. Like, literally, this every day is the last day of the Imperium because of how fucked everything is. But that can only sustain a setting for so long. You can't live in that last day for a decade. And if you can, you know that you're going to be living there with only a few other people, because it's not going to sell very well. And God, I mean, what am I going to do? Tell GW they're not allowed to be greedy enough to even make their setting marketable? No, fuck no. And I like it being marketable. I like more people getting into it. I like that there's a fight. I like that there's now ostensible, like, you want to know what's even fucking dumber than Roboute Guilliman doing away with the bureaucracy? You want to know what's even dumber than that? Chaos's impending victory and Abaddon's consistent and constant and undying failure. It's like, okay, how can we both say that the Imperium is on the brink of total defeat, where technology isn't even a thing, where people are doing ineffectual praying at toasters to make them fucking work while they clog up and burn up and die? Okay, how can you say that that's the case, that's how things are? And meanwhile, we have the forces of the Immaterium, which are literal fucking demon gods and all kinds of fucking crazy shit, and dudes who have been liberated from the absolute, what you've just described, mind-numbing, brainless ignorance of the Imperium and how it's totally ineffective and how it can't possibly live much longer because of all this stuff. And then you have Abaddon, who has working demons. Any technology that doesn't work for Abaddon, he can make it work with the warp. He can make up what he doesn't have with the warp, with magic, with bullshit, with demons. And then Abaddon fails every fucking time. He barely gets even close to doing what he's trying to do ever. Like, Cadia is the first time that he's ever made any real significant progress. Like, don't get me wrong, they fucked up by making it be Crusade 13 that has any real goddamn impact on the Imperium. But don't you realize how much more absurd it would have been if we go for another Crusade and then another Crusade and nothing happens? How can we call this the failing Imperium if it doesn't actually fucking fail, man? So yes, it makes sense that innovation begins to happen just as everything dies. Yes, Blockbuster began to imitate Netflix just before it went out. It was too little, too late. Things like that happen. You do see drastic attempts at adaptation and change in the last moments of a thing, and this has been shown in history to even save a thing. Like, you can course correct at the last moment, and it worked. This shit's not so far out that I have a problem with it. I don't mind Roboute Guilliman coming back. I don't mind there being an alliance with the Eldar and the humans. I realize these are huge departures from where Warhammer used to be. I like that. I like that Warhammer has a history, and that as a fictional universe, we can live in this part of history, and then in that part of history, and then in the next part of history. I like that. The setting needs to move forward, and killing the Imperium and breaking it into a million new factions would have been much more polarizing than reviving a Primarch who was sitting in it with a mortal wound in a stasis chamber, ostensibly just waiting to be revived. I don't mind any of that. I don't mind the lore getting progressed. I don't mind there being a shining light in the grim darkness. I don't mind any of that. But so my whole point in bringing that up and going on that tangent about the things I don't mind is because I'm a fan who's willing to put up with a lot, and I'm even with the lore. You know, let me be. I'll make one last point on this. The Primaris Space Marines, totally unnecessary. I'm sorry. I know that there are a lot of fans who listen to me who love the Primaris, and I have no ill will towards them. They're cool, you know, but they're just cool. They're nothing. They're not any better than the original Space Marines. They don't seem to actually put out any better than the original Space Marines. You know, the Primaris can't be much better narratively than the original Space Marines, because if they were, it would change too much. And as you can see, they aren't. The original Space Marines, there weren't as many of them. They didn't have a fucking Primarch's leadership. They were fighting each other as much as fighting the enemy. And they still held the Imperium up for fucking 10,000 years, 10,000 years, 10,000 years. You cannot encompass into your mind how fucking long that is. That is so much longer than any government to date has ever lived. And it was held together and up virtually almost entirely by these superhuman warriors just fighting off every consistent doomsday. And now come along the Primaris. They can't be much better. Because if you just did, like if Roboute Guilliman came back and had the quote-unquote Primaris, but they were just more Space Marines, new and more Space Marines, and not actually different, like they didn't have the Godmaker or what have you integrated into them, and they didn't have any of the new gene seed. If they were just normals, and they were integrated in, that would, like, with what we know about Space Marines already, that would do what we're seeing. You know, that like replenishing every chapter like that and gathering it together into a pseudo legion is, it would do this. It would have this effect. So I think that the Primaris would have been cooler as a more organic integration of the existing Space Marines. But that's not what GW wanted when they made the Primaris Space Marines. You know, you might say, oh, well, they were trying to reproportion them. The Space Marines' old proportions were all wonky, so the Primaris proportions are now correct. You could have fixed that. No one was... I mean, when they had the Slim Marines in the trailer for Warhammer... for Dawn of War, rather, Dawn of War 3, you didn't see a huge uprise against that or kill. Everyone understands that the Space Marine proportions have always been a bit wonky. Nobody minds if you fix that. We don't mind our Space Marine fridge machines. But we also don't mind Slim Marines either. We you know, the fan base tends to be pretty flexible on that kind of thing. So it wouldn't have been a big problem if you just wanted to redesign your new Space Marine models. You know, the Return of the Primarch Space Marine models. Or give them new armor and let that be the reason why. The reason why the Space Marines are looking different now. God, and I say all this because I have such an enormous tolerance for GW's changing of the lore for whatever reason they have, like, you know, progressing of the lore for whatever reason they have. I'm constantly looking for reasons to simp for this fucking company. I'm constantly looking for reasons to like GW more and to rep them and to push their name forward and say they're getting better and that the old GW is gone and there's no you know, that there's no harshness between us, the fans, and the Endgames Workshop. But I can't say that, you know, because they're constantly doing shit like this, and it looks like the reason they're doing it is because they see their doomsday coming with the 3D printer, and they want to pretty up the company, or rather the IP, so they can sell it off. I wish there was a way we could punish them for this, but the only way to punish them for this is something that I can't do. It's model sales, model sales. If model sales don't suffer, GW doesn't feel it. And I just don't have a reason to believe otherwise at this moment. I wish that we could talk to somebody. I wish that there was a community rep, or that they would be, if there is, I don't even know they exist. I wish they would, there would be some sort of outreach. I don't know, man. It's making me think about abandoning the setting every single day. Which leads me to my plans as concerns Warhammer 40k and stuff. I've spent so many years enjoying the setting, so many years living in it, so many years talking about it, forming relationships around it. I can't just give it up, unfortunately. As much as I want to hate GW more than I love Warhammer, I don't. I don't hate GW more than I love Warhammer. I don't. So this is what I'm going to do. I hate that I have to do this, but So, from now on, I'm only going to support fan-made, fan-produced GW content. When Warhammer Plus comes out, I'm going to wait until they've released all episodes of their animated series, and then I'm going to purchase the subscription for like a month. Once all of the animated series that are running have released all their episodes, their new episodes, I'm going to binge them, and maybe do a review on them. That's a really fucked up thing. One of the things that we thought was like a really pro-fan move, which was them hiring on a bunch of fan animators to help them with their shit. It's now like they're holding us hostage with their greed again, and they're holding our people hostage. I want the guys who got hired by Games Workshop to be successful. I want them to make money. I want them to know that they're loved, and that we in the community don't forget them just because they've signed on with the company. I want them to know that we appreciate them, that they are the reason that we enjoy this setting, that they are the reason that we get up and talk about Space Marines, and the Emperor of Mankind, and the Imperium of Man, and the great Eldari craft worlds, and the intolerable threat of the Tyranid Devourer, and the ageless nuisance of the Necrons. The only reason that we talk about these things are because of them. The only reason these things are important to us and stay in our lives is because of them. I want them to know that, but I also don't want to reward the company who owns them now. God. There's a timeline where I didn't have to make this video. There's a timeline where I didn't have to think these thoughts. Where GW just kept their fan base fat and happy. And it's so fucking easy with a fan base that is so willing to eat junk food and just consume their content. They have to go out of their way and be hostile towards us to get us pissed off, And I don't know, man. Again, this is my plan. I'm going to boycott all GW products. I'm going to only partake in fan works. And eventually, once GW's released all their fan series on Warhammer Plus, all of them, I will go on to Warhammer Plus, sign on for 1 month. I'll let you guys know when I'm doing it. We can all do it together if you like. And then I'm going to binge all their content. And then I'm going to fucking leave it again. Because I want to support those artists who they hired on. And then nothing else. And then I'm probably going to start, Warhammer will probably start dying for me little by little. I don't hate GW more than I love Warhammer, But love has to be sustained. Love doesn't just exist in a vacuum, and it doesn't just come unconditionally, and it doesn't just continue to live. So, unless, I mean, and this is the funny part, the fans love Warhammer 40k so much that it's possible that my fan love for this series will never die, because the fans will help me sustain it, because I'll just consume fan works, and the fan works will be so good and so consistently awesome that we will, that it'll keep me loving this, and I don't want to love this. I feel like a jilted lover, bro. Like, I'm like, I can't stop loving you, and like you pan the camera over, I'm looking at a Space Marine helmet. It's like, I fucking love this franchise and the stories that can be told in this universe so much. And it's held back so much by the people who own it. And there's so little they would have to do to just don't attack the fans. Don't address the fan animations. Don't do it. Use it as a free talent pool. Use it as a place where fans can just get together and spread word about your company and how awesome it is. But for fuck's sake, man, at least create a head of communications or something who can talk to us and let us know even a bullshit narrative reason as to why this has to happen to us, man. I don't like the fucking Major Kill made an animation about a Space Marine fighting Doomguy, and that shit was so fucking awesome. That's not allowed to exist anymore. And a part of me wants to say, how dare you? Wants to go all Greta on this motherfucker and be like, how dare you? This is more ours than it is yours. We pay for it, not you. You just hold it. We pay for it. But bro, the people who pay for it are the fucking miniature holders. God damn it. Have you ever wanted to be into a thing so you could be out of the thing just to punish the people who own the thing? This is the first time I've ever felt this way. This is the first time I've ever felt so fucking petty about it. But it's because I feel powerless. I feel fucking powerless. I'm still gonna do everything that I can do. I'm not gonna let my powerlessness translate into pessimism that wins them their game before it ever has to be tested. But, God, man, it's just such a fucking frustrating place to be on. That's basically what this whole video is. It's just me telling you guys my plan, the whys, the whats, my perceptions, and venting onto the frustration that I feel towards this. I already have this season finale planned out for Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40k, so that's coming no matter what. I've already written too much of it, and I'm not going to let myself not stick the landing because of Games Workshop. Maybe I don't stick the landing because my writing doesn't make it, but that would be the only reason. I'm not going to let this fail because of Games Workshop. This is a product of fan love, and fan love is what we're defending in this situation. So it would make no sense for me to quit here and now. But Season 2, fuck, man. I'm struggling right now to finish the last few episodes of Season 1 because of how bad the emotions are running. I'm not being paid for this. Every moment that I spend writing this is a moment I could be spending doing something else, making myself money, or doing, working toward a dream goal that I have that isn't related to Warhammer 40k, I used to imagine that I might one day work for this company, maybe write up a script for a novel or a novella for them and send it over, and maybe become a writer for the Black Library. But like, god damn, man, it's like, I just feel no goodwill, man. I just don't feel like, I feel like I would have to hide the fact that I'm an actual fan of Warhammer 40k if I enter the company, and that if I don't hide that fact, I will be targeted or leveraged or used, or, there doesn't seem to be any fucking honor, consistency, transparency with Games Workshop at all. I wish we could just stand up as a single community and say, enough is enough. We don't need to put up with this shit. Enough is enough. Treat us better or we won't pay for your shit. That we could just prove the concept of capitalism. But that's only the half of the fan base that cares about the stories. And some part of the miniatures fan base is involved in that. I know that for a fact. But not enough, I don't think. You know, I don't have the current perception that enough of that fan base, the miniatures fan base, would care enough to alter their buying habits to make GW see it on their screen. So all I can do is symbolic. Everything that I do is symbolic. It's symbolic of my displeasure. It's symbolic of how much I want things to change. But until the people with power, it's funny how this sounds when you say it, but until the people with power in this dynamic choose to do something about it, all I can do about it is talk. All I can do about it is be on here. And, you know, I see a lot of people being like, oh, switch over to Battletech. Oh, switch over to this or that. Switch over to this game. Or, you know, I don't want to leave Warhammer. I'm not trying to sell people on leaving Warhammer. I don't want to leave Warhammer. Warhammer is what is good. Games Workshop is what is bad. You know, I almost want to, like, you know, I wish we could start a crowdfunding thing and purchase fucking Warhammer 40k from Games Workshop and then put it into the public domain so that people can just make their own stories on it and profit anywhere. And then actual marketability will determine where the canon goes. People will buy the stories they like, create their own timelines, let the unlimited universes of 40k truly spill forth into their greatest incarnation, into their wildest, most chaotic incarnation, and let that pure freedom carry forward what exists, again, on just the fan love of the endeavor. I wish we could do that we could get together and buy out GW ourselves instead of waiting for Disney to fucking do it. I wish that we could, oh God, I wish that we could do anything about this crap, man. But I don't know that we can. At least not that I can. I can see Disney getting better. I can see Star Wars getting better. For a while I thought I could see Warhammer getting better, but after hearing Arch's words on it and agreeing begrudgingly with quite a few of those words, what can I say? It looks like GW's trying to sell out. I mean, we've always known that they're composed of sellouts, but we didn't know they were actually trying to sell themselves out. And in doing so, they're selling all of us out. It's not like the whole community is helpless. It would be 10 years before this thing can get really finalized. 5 years if they rushed it, you know. But the only people with power right now are the people with the plastic figurines. You're the kings of Warhammer. You're the guys who make the choice. You have the votes with your dollars. I don't have the votes with mine. I guess that might be a flaw of having such a catastrophically enormous market. Even a little niche can sustain your incredibly bad business decisions. Well, I suppose I ought to get back to the grindstone and finish out these stories so that I can move on to greener pastures. Greener pastures. I only hope that those pastures can feed me as well as the ones I've been on. Because we're going through a drought, it looks like. Until next time, fans. I'll see you later.